Hi folks, and welcome back to another Football Manager 2019 experiment video. This is a series that I haven't uploaded for almost a month, I think. I've just been busy over the last wee while with various things, but I should be good to go again, and hopefully this experiment, or this part of the experiment, should prove as interesting as the previous part. So what we're doing is we're taking 4 Scottish Premiership teams, Celtic, Aberdeen, St Johnstone and Hamilton, and we're putting them in all the English divisions, and we're really just trying to get an idea of how they will do in those divisions. So we put all 4 teams in the Premiership, and I think every single team got relegated every single time except for Celtic. Celtic only got relegated 4 times, but otherwise the other 6 times because obviously we run the simulation for each team 10 times, 6 of the times we simmed the game for Celtic, they finished lower half of the table. They did finish mid-table once, I think, but then when it came to the English Championship, Celtic got promoted every single time except once, and that really just shows that they're probably on balance too good for the Championship, but not quite good enough to break into the top half of the Premiership. Meanwhile, St Johnstone and Hamilton got relegated every single time from the Championship. Aberdeen only got relegated 4 times. Basically, we're here, we've got all the teams in League 1. The team we're actually going to test at the minute is Aberdeen. We'll just have a look at them here. As you can see, they are in League 1. Basically, I've already simmed the game for Celtic. Since they won the Championship 9 out of 10 times, I decided that there really wasn't much point in going over Celtic in this division because I presumed they were just going to win it every time, and I was right. So spoiler alert, Celtic won the League 1 every single time. I'll show you their results after this, but it's going to be more interesting because Aberdeen got relegated from the Championship 4 times. I think they've got a chance of winning this, or at least getting promoted. We shall see. Let's have a look at the season preview. As you can see, they are 9 to 10 favourites to get promoted, which is interesting. We'll see if they can live up to that. I don't think is that huge odds? I actually don't know how odds really work, to be honest with you. Regardless of whether I understand odds or not, I guess what I'm trying to do here is just gauge where the division think Aberdeen are going to finish, and they're clearly going to be one of the strongest teams in the division. And also, I've never noticed this before, I've never paid attention to it, but this is the dream team of the dream 11 of players in the division, and as you can see, we've got multiple Aberdeen players. When I looked at Celtic in the season preview, this entire team was made of Celtic players except for like 1, so that was pretty funny. So I think this will be quite interesting because obviously Hamilton and St Johnstone, they've struggled in the previous 2 divisions, getting relegated each time. I think they might survive quite regularly this division, so we'll have to wait and see when we get onto those teams. But first, we're going to sim 1 season for the Aberdeen in League 1 experiment, see where they finish, and really just see if that matches up with what the league has predicted. Okay, so I did witness a bit of a spoiler because as the game was processing, it was getting to the end, and I looked down in the corner and it showed the result of the playoff final. But as you can see, Aberdeen didn't quite finish top, but they did get promoted via the playoffs. It's the 3rd to 6th place, I believe, that gets to the playoff, and Aberdeen finished 5th, and as a result they went up. This was the playoffs. We can have a look at their progress. So they beat Sunderland on penalties, it looks like, before getting to the final and beating Barnsley after extra time, which is good. And Stevie May, good old Stevie May, got the 2 goals to get Aberdeen up to the Championship. So very, very interesting stuff there. They didn't quite finish top. I wonder, where were Portsmouth predicted to finish? Yeah, Portsmouth and Charlton were up there. Look, the odds changed. That's interesting. I didn't appreciate the odds changed quite that much. I mean, Aberdeen are still up there. It's not like they went from first all the way down to mid-table, but it's interesting. Let's have a look at their competition. So the Europa League is kind of less appropriate because they got in that via, obviously they're finishing the SPL, but as you can see they did get knocked out 1 round before the group stage. But the FA Cup and the League Cup, or the Carabao Cup, which we're more interested in, they got knocked out in the first round to Rochdale, unfortunately. Then again, Rochdale are in their in their league, so it wasn't too much of a shock. And they also got to the second round of the Carabao Cup, losing the second round to Palace, who are, of course, a Premiership team. Seems like they got a bye in the Carabao Cup, maybe because they were in Europe, but they got knocked out the first time of asking by Palace. So, 5th place, not too bad. They got promoted. Not quite where we expected them to finish, or not quite as high as we expected them to finish. I'll simulate it another 10 times, and next time you see me, we will be previewing the St Johnstone team to see how they are predicted to finish in the Sky Bet League 1. Okay, so now it is time to have a look at how my team, St Johnstone, are going to fare in the Sky Bet League 1. Let's have a look at the table just for confirmation. There they are, sitting in 21st place, courtesy of goal difference. Let's have a look at the season preview. So, yeah, they're currently predicted to finish 8th. Now, the thing that's interesting about this is, if you'd asked me prior to this experiment where I thought most of the Scottish Premiership teams would line up in terms of their ability matched up against English teams, I would have said League 1. Obviously, there's a whole joke, the whole pub league joke about how it's, really, really bad standard. But I don't think League 1's a terrible standard, and based on the size of clubs in League 1, based on the size of grounds, for example, and the quality of players, I would have thought that my team, St Johnstone, would line up pretty evenly against most of these teams, and that is what we can see here. The game has predicted that Saints will finish in 8th place. Whether they finish there or not remains to be seen. Obviously, we saw Aberdeen when they were predicted to finish 1st and ended up finishing 5th, which still isn't bad, but there is a bit of a difference there. We've not seen anything too outrageous in our experiment so far. We've not seen any major shocks. I mean, Celtic finished 11th in the Premiership. Aberdeen failed to finish bottom on a few occasions in the Premiership. But apart from that, we've not really seen anything that really suggests that is going to be different here. As in, St Johnstone will probably finish around mid-table here. And that is all we can really expect. As you can see, none of the St Johnstone players have made it into the Dream 11 here. Let's see if there's any key players listed here. There's the first one, Murray Davidson. So he's listed as a key player. Joe Shaughnessy's there as well. Okay, so we've got a couple of the St Johnstone players listed as key players across the division, which is good. Does Wickham have a player listed? Okay, I'm guessing every team has at least one player listed here. So I'm going to simulate the game now for one season. We'll see where St Johnstone finish, see if they can upset the odds, or if they will meet expectations. So now it's time to see how St Johnstone have fared in League 1. Well, they didn't get to the playoff final, so if they went up, it was automatically. Okay, they finished 14th, so that is roughly around where they were predicted to finish. I can't remember where it was. I think it was like 8th or something at the start of the season. Okay, yeah, it was 8th. So I know, 8th and 14th, there is a bit of a difference, but I get the idea, based on my knowledge of these leagues, that the difference between the teams can be very minimal, and so teams are often likely to finish anywhere in mid-table if they're predicted to finish there, basically. That's what I don't know an awful lot about these leagues, but that's the idea I get. Charlton, though, had a mare. They were predicted to finish like 3rd, and they ended up finishing 13th. That is a bit of a shock. I don't think it's a huge shock that St Johnstone finished 14th. As you can see, though, they finished 10 points clear of relegation. They were 9 points or whatever behind the playoff places. So, as you can tell, the league was fairly tight, but there was no danger of them going up or down. So let's now see how they did in the cup competitions. Of course, Aberdeen didn't do so well. And, well, St Johnstone did get to the 3rd round of the FA Cup, which means they progressed through at least 2 rounds. Got to the 2nd round of the Carabao Cup. What we're going to do now is we're going to have a look at the schedule. We're going to see what other teams they played, just for a bit of interest. So here we are. So the Carabao Cup, they got past Grimsby. Are they League 2? Yep, Grimsby Town are League 2. They then lost out to Championship. Oh no, Barnsley are League 1. And as you can see, at the FA Cup, they got past Solihull Moors, which is a National League team, so 2 divisions below where St Johnstone were placed. They got past Mansfield, who are a League 2 team, but then they eventually lost out to Premiership team Newcastle, although only 2-1, so no harm done. So yeah, interesting stuff there. They had a fairly bog standard season. I'm guessing that most teams at this level don't progress that far into the tournaments. I mean, the odd one will, but you're not going to get like 6 or 7 teams from League 1 getting to like the quarterfinals of the FA Cup or whatever else. So, I mean, they did alright. They got past a few rounds of cup competitions, which was good. So we'll study their league positions and their stats a lot more at the end of the video. But now we're going to go and preview our final team for this experiment. So now it's time to check out how Hamilton Academical will do. They are in this experiment because they are by reputation the weakest team in the Scottish Premiership, although obviously they are not bottom at this stage of the season. Let's have a look at the season preview. Okay, so noticeable difference here. Hamilton are presumed to finish, or predicted to finish in 21st place, which would mean they would get relegated. St Johnstone were 8th, Aberdeen were 1st, so you can see there is a big difference between the reputation and the perceived quality of the teams prior to the season. So Hamilton did get relegated every time. They finished bottom every time in the Premiership and the Championship. This table here predicts that they will go down once again, although this time they're not the weakest team as perceived prior to the season starting. I'm just going to see which player they've got here. Okay, I don't quite know that player. Yeah, I don't know much of the Hamilton Academical squads, but they do have a couple of players here listed as key players. So once again, we will simulate one season, and we'll see how they have done. Can they upset the odds? We shall see. Okay, so for the final time in League 1, we're going to have a look at how the Scottish team has done. The one that we were testing. Okay, so Hamilton just avoided relegation, just narrowly. They survived on goal difference. Their goal difference is surprisingly good for a team that's down there. As you can see, most of the teams around about have a two-figure in the minuses goal difference, but they have a 0 goal difference for whatever reason. Finished on 51 points though, same as Wickham and Wimbledon, and they only finished 2 points above 22nd place Blackpool. So that's very interesting, but they did finish higher than they were previously predicted, but obviously they finished lower than both Aberdeen and St Johnstone. I see the prediction moved. I'll never understand how that works. Anyway, let's have a look at their competitions. They got knocked out in the first round of both competitions, it looks like, by League 2 Grimsby and by League 1 side, Sunderland. I forgot Sunderland are in the same division as Hamilton. They drew on the final day, which may have saved them effectively. But yeah, I see they drew. Did they draw a lot of games? Maybe it was the fact they drew a lot of games. They drew 18 of their 46 games. They lost a fair amount too. They didn't seem to draw any more than some of the other teams. As you can see, they won a lot of their games by a decent margin, 3-0, 2-0 and whatnot, and their losses came at mainly 1 goal deficits. There's only 1 or 2 goal deficits that I can spot. That was a particularly bad result against Bradford. So they didn't do that badly to survive. So yeah, will that set the tone for the other 9 simulations? Will Hamilton upset the odds again? We can only wait and see. Next time you see me, I'll be with a spreadsheet and we shall be analysing how all the teams did across all 10 simulations. So that is the end of the simulations for Scottish teams in League 1. I have the results here, and they are pretty intriguing, if I do say so. First of all, let's get the obvious out of the way. Celtic won the league every single time. They got more than 100 points every single time, so we don't really need to go into depth with them. Obviously, they won the Championship 9 times out of 10. So they were deemed too good even for the Championship. In terms of the Cup, Celtic did alright in the FA Cup. They got to the 6th round, which is the quarter-final stage, twice. They got to the 5th round a few times. They didn't do so well in the League Cup, but that might have more to do with the round they started in, as opposed to just how well they did in either competition. Because as you can see, they did noticeably better in the FA Cup compared to the League Cup. Maybe Europe played a factor in it as well, because they were in Europe. Anyway, let's move down to the other teams though, because this is where things get interesting. So, in episode 2, Aberdeen got relegated 4 times from the Championship. Admittedly, they survived a few times as well, which, similar to Celtic in the Premiership, kind of says are a lower half Championship side. As you can see, they didn't get promoted every time from League 1, but they got promoted, 5 times? So a good 50% of the simulations we did so Aberdeen get promoted. So in some ways, they're kind of like, well, I don't know which team to like them to because I'm not too sure of the landscape of English football. But if there's a team that kind of yo-yos between the two divisions, they might be kind of like that sort of a team. Not good enough necessarily to push for promotion in the Championship, but certainly good enough to avoid relegation at times, and definitely good enough to go up from League One. So they would be almost a whole tier below Celtic. There's a huge gap in terms of the English football landscape between the two of them. So that's quite interesting. In terms of cup competitions, they do get through to the last 32 of the Europa League again as a League One club, which was pretty funny. But they didn't do nearly as well in the cup competitions as Celtic did. In terms of the other two teams, St Johnstone and Hamilton, first of all, it should be noted that the difference between St Johnstone's positions is huge. Their highest finish came in the 5th season, or the 5th simulation, when they finished 5th. They actually got to the playoffs. They lost in the playoff semi-final, I believe, to Portsmouth, I think. But then the season after, or the simulation after, they got relegated. Their only relegation in all 10 simulations. So there was a big, big difference between their finishes, and maybe that just goes to show that League One is their level in terms of the English football landscape. And as for Hamilton, well, they got relegated 4 times. They finished no higher than 17th in most of the simulations. Apart from one, they finished 10th for some reason. I was quite stunned. Not because I had low expectations of them, but as you can see, up until that point, the previous simulations had seen them finish as high as 19th only. So I was like looking for them in the league, couldn't see them, and then, oh, okay, they're in the top half. That's interesting. I'm considering doing the simulation again for League 2, just for a bit of completion. I think we'll stop at League 2, but I'm confident Hamilton will... I'm confident St Johnstone will definitely get promoted from League 2. Hamilton, I'm pretty sure they'll finish top half in League 2, and that will really set the standard for all the teams. So we've got Celtic as a lower half Premiership team, Aberdeen as a lower half Championship team / upper half League 1 team, and then St Johnstone are probably just a solid League 1 team with Hamilton. Well, they might be lower half League 1, upper half League 2. That's how I'm looking at things. Also the cup record of St Johnstone and Hamilton is pretty shambolic. Saints got to the 5th round of the FA Cup once, the 4th round once, but apart from that, it was 1st to 3rd round in all the competitions for both them and Hamilton, so very interesting stuff. I guess obviously being a kind of League 1 class team, you're not going to progress that far. As I said earlier, you're not expecting League 1 teams to, progress super deep into tournaments unless it's like a one-off. I think Bradford got to the League Cup finals, was it a League 2 team, so that's an anomaly. You don't see that very often. So those are the results. I'll just do a quick scroll down. You can pause it if you wish to have a look further. And I didn't scroll down very gracefully there. And what I'm planning to do next episode is to simulate these 4 teams in League 2. Then I'll give you a bit of a preview. The episode after, we're going to change things up. We're going to look at 3 Scottish lower league teams. Maybe 3, maybe more, but I'm thinking of 3 at the moment. 3 lower league Scottish teams, and we're going to see how they fare in the non-league of English football, see if they do well, and if they do well, then we'll simulate them in a higher division. Compared with this experiment, where we started at the top, we'll go the other way and we'll start from the bottom. And I might download an extended English database, because you get the databases that extend English leagues. I might download that for this, I'm not sure. I'm not sure if that's proper. Anyway, we'll think about it. But thank you very much for watching this Football Manager 2019 experiment. I've been really interested in the results, and it's not finished there. I do have a lot of other ideas for this series, and I will continue to hopefully put them into practice. Until next time, thank you for watching. See you later.